Okay, sorry about the technical delay. So we'll try to get back on track. So this is the Transportation, Infrastructure, Energy, Environment Committee. Today is Thursday, April 9th. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Chair Denoga,
Present.
Vice Chair Olson,
Here.
Councilmember Harrison,
Present.
Councilmember Hunter. Here. Councilmember Adams. Four members present at roll call.
Okay, Mr. Adams is off site. He's joining us virtually. Either he's with us or will be soon. So we have three items on our agenda today. First, the WSSC operating CIP budget, then Soil Conservation District, and then we have CB 25 2026. I'll turn to Mr. Battle to get us going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, today we're going to start with the WSSC budget. And before I do, I want to acknowledge the presence of the WSSC leadership, beginning with General Manager, Ms. Powell, and I'll give her an opportunity to acknowledge her team. And I believe we do have the chair of the commission is here as well. So.
I'll just add that I'm joined today by our Chief Financial Officer, Manetsi Masara, and Chief Engineer Alan Wong, and Chair Smith, who represents Prince George's County, is also here in the audience as well.
All right. So, Mr. Chair, we're going to go through the staff report, and at the request of Councilmember Harrison, who's a real veteran on this committee, I am not going to read this 30-page report, sir. I'm going to give you the highlights, and we'll get right to staff recommendations, and we can have a conversation about impacts on this budget at certain levels of increase to the volumetric rates and fixed fees. So if we start with the budget report, you should have a revised version of it. I apologize, some of my technological limitations impacted formatting on the report. So you have a new version, and we're going to put that on the screen as I go through it. Very briefly, Mr. Harrison. Okay, you're highlighting. All right. So the FY 2027 budget, if you turn on page 2, that gives the summaries. The budget of 1.97 billion is 136.9 or 7.5% more than FY 2026 approved budget. If you turn to the next page, you'll see the chart there that breaks down the budget by operating funds, which represent a 5.6% increase, and the capital funds, which represent a 10.5% increase. And again, totally, the budget is 7.5% over the FY 2026 approved level. Now, on page 3 of the report, it shows some of the priorities that the commission has with regard to their operating budget. Some of the requirements they have to deal with: Safe Drinking Water Act, Clean Water Act compliance, etc. If you turn on page 4, you'll see on the capital budget, there's a summary there that shows the increase, again, the 10.5% increase, which in real dollars is $73.4 million over the FY 2026 approved budget. You have some highlights there on some of the items that are planned for the capital budget. And we'll get into some detail on some of these things. So I wanted to point out that on page 5, you see a description of financial assistance programs that the commission has put in place to assist some of their customers who are lower incomes. And so you have a chart there at the bottom of the page that shows how funding for the financial assistance programs have grown from $3.5 million in FY 2023 to $10.6 million in the proposed budget. On the next page, you see there's a brief paragraph about the customers who qualify for these programs, and gives a description of it. And in fact, you have an attachment that shows the number of CAP customers in each council district. And in fact, you have a copy of that, hard copy of that at your desks this morning. So on section 2 that talks about proposed rates, fees, and charges, the proposed budget is based on a 5% increase in the average water and sewer volumetric rates and fixed fees, and includes also a 1% revenue enhancement from one-time adjustment from interest income and rate stabilization funds. So the expenditures, the budget will grow by a total of 6%, but only 5% of that increase is comes from the rates. So if you turn on to page 7, you see a chart there that shows the funding sources and the amount needed to be covered by the rate increase. And one of the things we did was we did a historical analysis of rate increases, and you see at the bottom of page 7, going into the top of page 8, will show you that the rate increases, how they've transpired since actually FY 2000. One of the things we did, we did a 5-year average from fiscal years 22 to 26. That average rate increase was 7.5%. Over a 10-year period from FY 17 to 26, the average rate increase is 6.3%. And we even did a increase going back to fiscal year 2006 and to 2026, and that average is 6.4%. So basically, those calculations show that this year's proposal of 5% is lower than all of those averages. If you look down in the middle of page 8, you also see a comparison of WSSC's rate increases as compared to DC Water and Baltimore City's over the period of FY 2016 to actual 2026, and including the proposed FY 2027. After that, there's a description of the fixed fees, infrastructure investment fee that is expected to generate $88.9 million in FY 2027. The account maintenance fee is proposed to generate $72.1 million in FY 2027. You have descriptions on page 9 of the system development charge, and I'll just point out here that the systems development charge had not been increased for many years until last year. Since the year 2000, the SDC had not increased up until last year, when a 2.5% increase was approved for the system development charge, and the commission is proposing another 2.4% increase. And their increases here are always coordinated with the consumer price index. And so you have more details in the budget on page 2-6. You have a description of miscellaneous fees and other revenues on at the bottom of page 9. And on page 10, we have a description of the spending affordability process, and it notes in the middle of the page, you see that WSSC's proposal meets the 5% limit that was adopted by the Prince George's Council, with the exception of the water and sewer operating expenses. And again, that difference is because of the one-time revenue adjustments that the commission is proposing. At the bottom, you see a description of the 6% revenue enhancement total and some of the items that are included in that. If you go to page 11, you see some of the major assumptions and workload summary. Let's see, we can go to page 12 has a description of the revenues and, excuse me, and you'll note there where you can see in the far right column the use of fund balance that's indicated there. Let's see, and one of the things we'll note, if you look at the bottom of that chart where you see in expenses, you see PAYGO, and we're going to have a few words to talk about the increases in PAYGO. And you'll note there that the FY 2027 proposal is for $100 million in PAYGO, which is the alternative to issuing new debt, and definitely has a positive impact with the rating agencies and long-term stability. If you turn to, let's see, we got a discussion of fund balance, system development charge. I tell you what, we can turn to page 15 and where the discussion of PAYGO there, the increases in PAYGO, as we said, have a definitely positive impact. And in fact, it has lowered year-over-year debt service growth. And as an example, in fiscal year 23 to actual 2024, the debt service growth was 12.7%. And in 2026 to proposed 2027, that actual debt service growth is 3.9%. So you can see the impact that PAYGO is having. We also note that, of course, the increases have been very significant since 2023. And in fact, from 2023 to 2026, the increase was $62 million. And so that has been one of the drivers. There are many, but one of the drivers of the rate increases in recent years. Now, let's see, we have Mr. Harrison. I'm trying to meet my time limits here, sir. The debt service expense, you note at the bottom of page 15, and again, new debt for FY 2027 is $491.1 million, which again is the limit that was established in the spending affordability process. Let's see, the budget for debt service expenses is $388.4 million, which is an increase of 3.9% or $14.6 million over the FY 2026 approved amount. Let's see, I think what we can do is talk about the impact on customer bills at 5%. And so if I can, Mr. Chair, I'm going to skip around a little bit and go to page, Mr. Harrison will like this, on page, sorry about that, was it 29? Thank you. On page 29, section 9, is the customer impact. So 5% rate increase will add approximately $4.92 per month or $14.75 per quarter to a customer's bill. The average customer, that's $59 per year, and the average customer is defined as a household using 145 gallons per day, and that's the estimate that it's a 3-person household, each one using 48 gallons per day. So, you know, that's where what we're talking about on average is an increase of $59 per year for the average size family. We have some charts there that shows on the next page, on page 30, you can see the average residential bill as a percentage of median income. We tried to take some charts that show how WSSC's rates and fees compare to nationally and as well as regionally with some similar types of entities. Now, if you turn on page 31, you'll see that one of the main factors here is maintaining the AAA bond rating, and you have some successes from the commission listed there. And at the bottom of that page, you see a summary of the 6% revenue enhancement and some of the items there, including the increase in the affordability programs to 10.6 million, consent decree projects on time and on budget, and increase in the PAYGO funding to reduce new debt issues. Now, on page 32, Mr. Chair, you have the staff recommendations, which first are to concur with the 5% increase in the volumetric rates and fixed fees. And also, we note that the proposed budget does meet those spending affordability guidelines for new water and sewer debt, service. And of course, it does exceed total water and sewer operating expenses. And, we indicated there that there may need to be a discussion of what that means in terms of exceeding the revenue, the expenditure enhancements that are available through the rate increases. Going beyond that, does that create a deficit for the following fiscal year, or what, how the commission plans to deal with that? We say the last bullets also include the increases in the system development charge, and didn't talk much about the capital improvement side of the budget, Mr. Chair, and we can go into more detail if you choose to. Wanted to get to I also wanted to mention that the commission is definitely prepared to discuss the impacts if the two counties choose not to approve the 5% increase in the fees and fixed charges, and because their budget definitely does have a lot of expenditure reductions that they've done, and have indicated that there may be a need to make some reductions to the CIP if there were reductions in their proposed rate increase. Now, we know over the years, staff has always recommended reductions on the operating side of the budget if there was a reduction in the proposed rate increase. But I'm sure the general manager and their staff may want to talk about what those impacts are at the current time, considering all of the cost control measures that they've instituted up to this point. So we can stop there, Mr. Chair, and take questions from your colleagues.
Well, thank you, Mr. Battle, for the very comprehensive report. Before we take questions, should we turn to Ms. Powell and let her do her presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Mr. Battle and the staff for putting together such a comprehensive report and summarizing all of the things. It is quite a lot here. We've given our presentation, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do want to just say that since we were here last, there have been significant cost increases this fiscal year that we know will continue next fiscal year. Fuel costs, chemical costs, those are things that we absolutely have to have and we can't cut. We use chemicals to treat drinking water and wastewater that we receive. We also have increases in materials costs, other things that are impacted by inflation, and we're also impacted by increases in power costs. We takes a lot of energy to move water around our system. And we did a rebaselining of the capital program. We talked about some of the reductions that are there to make room for other critical projects. We've talked about those critical projects. Some of the linear infrastructure projects are high consequence of failure infrastructure. There's definitely a need to make investments to improve redundancy and resiliency specifically for Prince George's County. And certainly that helps to support the projects that the county wants to move forward as well by having sound infrastructure. At the end of the day, we did come into the budget planning for fiscal year 2027 having made cuts. We've provided a summary of those line by line. Many of those cuts are not sustainable. We have to understand how we will deal with those one-time reductions going in beyond fiscal year 2027. What we have tried to do is not impact our team. We've got, most of our team primarily lives in Prince George's County. We've tried to preserve their cost of living increases. We have 32% of our team that lives in the county. And so we believe that we have reached the limit of operating cuts that we can do. Any further cuts would be in capital, up to $263 million from the capital program. And this is at a time when right now, today, we are working to get a signature piece of legislation across the finish line in Annapolis to maximize participation of small and local businesses in both counties. So reducing the capital program will have certainly a negative impact, not only for what we need to do in terms of addressing critical infrastructure, but it will have a negative impact on our ability to maximize participation. That also has a local hiring component as well. So significant impacts that we see. And then the last piece is customers. Unlike other utilities, we do not generate a profit at all. So any customer assistance programs that we are able to offer, which we have been able to add more to the budget we have, because we know that there is no federal program for customer assistance. There is no state program for water customer assistance akin to the energy programs. And those are profit-making utilities, and they have dedicated customer assistance programs. The water sector does not. And so we are fortunate enough to be able to offer customer assistance programs, several, but we have to pay for those through the budget. So any reductions that we would need to make would also impact what we have been able to add for fiscal year 27 and probably beyond that to our customer assistance programs as well.
So, Mr. Chair, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Adams has joined now, so.
Okay.
go ahead.
Mr. Harrison?
Thank you, Mrs. Powell, for your leadership. I want to thank your team for your leadership. I want to actually thank you as well for the work that you've done in Prince George's County, to the men and women of WSSC for the capital improvement projects that have been happening along our roadways. You all worked very hard, and you've met with the community, and communication has improved, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that and say thank you.
Thank you.
Secondly, it's a good segue. We were talking about the capital funds. And I went on page 4 and you distinctly outline where these investments are going. And my question is, for all these that you have the investment of 114 million to replace 63 miles of sewer pipe, 68 million to replace 35 miles of water pipe. I'm not going to go through each one, but what is the percentage of that that's actually getting done in Prince George's County?
I would say I have the appendix here, and we can follow up with you on the exact percentage, but I think there's probably just about a 50-50 split.
50%?
Mhm.
And then what would,
And
go
if I
ahead,
could
I'm
just
sorry.
say, the linear infrastructure projects, we have those laid out by county. There are some projects that are by county.
Right.
So projects are laid out by BY County, and then we have the by BI County projects.
Okay.
And that includes facilities and other larger linear infrastructure that is serving both counties. So we'll provide that to you.
And what I think would be helpful for us council members, when we talk about the backlog of infrastructure that needs to be replaced, what is the percentage
Okay.
that you're chipping away at that as well? So we
Sure.
could kind of have, measure that as well. And then I want to scoot down to the investment of 12.8 million in smart water meter infrastructure. Yeah, as you know, this has been kind of a hot topic that this comes up with the water meters. And then what is the percentage of Prince George's County that these meters have actually been replaced? Because I think 12.8 million, I don't know how much they cost, so it's very hard for me to gauge of how much of an impact that 12.8 million is doing. But how do you measure that?
So we do have per meter costs, and we can provide those per meter costs to you. We can also provide an update. We are actually planning, and I just got the memo this morning, an update on the smart meter pilot that is happening right now. So we probably have about a 50-50 split in terms of deployed smart meters right now. Both school systems, public school systems, are on smart meters.
Yeah.
And we've been able to identify some immediate benefits for the school systems. They've been able to transition fully to monthly billing. They've been able to identify leaks proactively, and reducing estimated bills. So we can provide the costs of the pilot, and the total number of meters that we need to address across our service area is shy of 500,000.
Sure.
Roughly.
500,
So,
okay.
and we've got about I think it was 2,600 or thereabouts that are deployed currently.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to scoot on to page 11, but that is a praise report to have a 10%, almost 11% increase in your capital funds from the year before. I mean, $700 million is not, that's a great investment.
Yeah.
So we can't afford to cut 263 million from that. So that is imperative. Second is I want to go to the fund balance. Okay. Just further clarification on this, if you can help me just understand just a tad. 20% in reserve is your policy. I see you have 392 million. But what is your target? Is it 33%? Is that, am I reading that right? Or
Nancy Musara, Chief Financial Officer. So, Councilmember Harris, our target is not based on percentages. It's more of a days cash on hand, because that's one of the metrics that is really valued by our rating agencies. So we have a target of
it's your
right
liquidity,
now,
right?
It is, yes, it's our liquidity to make sure that we can cover our operations in the event that we have a glitch in revenue and there's a delay in revenue. So we have a target, I believe, of 290 days cash. Sorry, 250 days cash on hand. We have been fluctuating over the last few years. We were at I believe 60 And then based on what we are dealing with for FY 2027 and having to increase pay-go and invest in other areas, that came down slightly. So the target, as I said, is 250. We are currently revisiting our targets with our financial advisor. So in FY 2027, we'll try to be more liquid and make sure that we do it in consultant with our rating agencies.
Okay. And then lastly, on page 31, I'm feeling like you, Mr. Battle. I'm going through this whole PowerPoint presentation, but maintaining that AAA bond rating is, as you all know, it's very critical, not only to the institution, but how that is presented to the consumer as well. I see you said you had 25 years of consecutive agency rating of stable outlook. If you could speak briefly just from last year, because we all were put in a very vulnerable situation, all governments, and probably including yourself. What is it that they communicate with you back so that kind of helps you forecast as you move into the next year about how you balance this, right? Is there any like key words or anything that they say, or just for the people that might be watching in their conversations?
So in the conversations we have, the number one thing that is a concern is the investment in capital, investment in our system, making sure that we're catching up to any costs that were deferred, and really showing that we are also trying to meet our service targets. The second thing is making sure we keep investing in our team, because in this area we have competing utilities for, as far as workforce, in DC, in Baltimore, and Arundel County. So we're able to retain talented people and make sure that that knowledge stays in-house. So those two things, investing in the system and investing in capital, are two priorities. The second thing is we're fortunate because we have the two most affluent counties in the state.
Yeah.
So having that assists, even though we do have high delinquencies, the fact that the setup of the community supports, as the general manager said, us to provide up to 1% in our budget to customer assistance is something that they also value.
Okay. So the long-term obligations that you all have, like retirement, employee benefits, and things of that nature, healthcare, does that by stabilizing that, do they look at that discipline of how you structure that operational staffing as well?
Yes, they do. So our retirement plan, we're very fortunate. We're 85% funded, which is high compared to a lot of them. Our OPEB is at about 90%.
Okay.
And that is really unheard of because a lot of agencies have not been investing in their other post-employment benefits plans. So the average is around 30%. So because those two are really highly funded, that's a positive when it's taken into consideration, because our likelihood of debt or taking additional debt, if anything happens, is limited to that small percentage.
Chair, I don't know if you remember, I think it's 2 years ago, y'all went on a hiring blitz. I remember that. Y'all were trying to hire like 500 new people or something. You remember that?
We haven't been on a hiring blitz since I've been here.
Oh,
However,
I'm sorry. It might be something else.
there were I think it was 2008 or 2010 timeframe. There was actually a significant reduction
Oh, there was a
in
reduction. Okay, I apologize.
the workforce, and so since that time, there has been an effort to restore critical operating positions. We commissioned the new bioenergy facility at Piscataway.
I was there.
That required us to have, thank you, that required us to have additional team members. That's a new facility. We had to pull from other plants. And so we're trying to right size. So I've talked about the staffing level analysis that we have. And we do have a net increase. We haven't gone over the headcount that we were allotted. We do have a net increase since 2023, But for fiscal year 2027, we have requested no new positions. And we're still, as the system has grown, we have brought online new facilities, and we're having, increases in main breaks every year to maintain certain service levels. We've got to have the team members to help, to support that work. And you mentioned retirement. We have a pretty good retirement, which is why folks have stayed. But when folks retire, we're still paying for those retirees as well, and that those costs have increased. So,
Thank you. Ms. Hunter? Nothing? Mr. Olson?
Thank you for being here. Thanks for the presentation. Just a few questions. I'm wondering, how are we doing with federal grants? I mean, has that completely stopped? I know in the past there have been some, and then I also want to ask about PFAS, but I think sometimes there are grants for that and some other things.
so we have applied for funding, and we are seeing less in principal forgiveness, no grant funding. The IIJA, bipartisan infrastructure law, sunsets in 2026. So we will not see that plus up in funding. Congress right now is going through the process, appropriations process. But you may have noted that in the president's budget, there were indications of reductions to funding for water programs. So that continues to be a question mark on what will be available from federal funds. But we know that it will not be at the levels that we have seen in this prior few years.
Okay. So what
And
is
no
there a
grants.
strategy around that? I mean, how are we just not going to do those things, or that the grants funded? Are we going to, do we have to backfill that? I mean, what's the?
It means that we have to either take out more debt, or that is why you see the increase in PAYGO, so that we can limit the debt that we take out, because we don't want to have to pay for that down the road. We have to make sure we don't default on our debt, because that is an obligation we have to pay. And the PAYGO is also tied to our financial metrics to help maintain the AAA. You'll recall that we had gone into a negative outlook right before, during the pandemic, shortly after 2020, and we worked our way out of that negative outlook. We have to maintain the AAA because that keeps the cost of borrowing
Right.
as low as possible.
Right.
And with such a large capital program, we're borrowing a lot.
Okay. And then can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing around the forever chemicals, the PFAS?
Yes. So we talked about the pilot for PFAS in drinking water, the legislation at the state level related to PFAS and biosolids, that was introduced by Senator Love and Delegate Stein in Baltimore, did pass, and we had an opportunity to work with them to make sure that it wasn't it was something that we would be able to meet. It basically introduces a tiered structure for allowing levels of PFAS and biosolids. It was concerning to us because we made the $271 million investment in the bioenergy facility to manage biosolids and get to a product that we could land apply, which helps reduce the cost of being able to dispose of that material. It's the byproduct from the wastewater treatment process. But now having these levels, we may need to do additional treatment to reach those levels. So that's the PFAS and the biosolids piece. We're still waiting on information and relative to permits for PFAS in the effluent from the wastewater treatment plants, what we're putting back out into the waterway. But the drinking water piece, there was regulation passed. We have to do a pilot, which is funded partly in fiscal year 2027, to identify the technology necessary to remove PFAS from drinking water.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then just a question about workforce. I mean, how much, I mean, vacancies and that, I mean, how are you doing in terms of, you know, your employment?
So with the compensation improvements that we were able to make, we have a net increase over 2023. I look back when I started, and we have been able to add over 200 net individuals, again, filling critical vacancies. When I joined, we had just about 100% vacancy rate in critical positions at some of our plants. And so we've been able to attract those. We've been able to, you know, this past year, we ran into some concerns with being able to staff the bioenergy facility. And we've been able to attract individuals for those positions as well. So we are doing good at being able to attract. We have internship programs. We have now MOUs with both counties for a returning citizens program that takes we're able to hire there, establishing those pipelines, the internship programs. We're we've hired more high school interns to provide opportunities for them to possibly join WSSC Water. So we're doing good in the hiring. What we need to make sure is that we can maintain that staffing level. Again, we are making use of the vacancy pool that we have. We are not at, you know, the headcount cap that we have. And it's important to be competitive in this market because we're one of at least 7 wastewater utilities alone. There are other utilities and, you know, tech companies that have hired away water workforce as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I have a question, and I know that 5% is probably as low as you can go. But I'll say a couple months ago, there was an article, not sure if it was online or in one of the local papers, that generated a number of comments to me from constituents who said, no rate increases for WSSC. Now, I take that with a grain of salt, but that, you know, with the public concern about utility rates in general, you know, this is something that we face. I want to turn to page 9 about the system development charge. I don't quite understand, Mr. Battle, the sentence that's in here in the middle. It says, since 2000, WSSC Water has adjusted the maximum allowable charge based on the change in November CPI with no changes to the actual fee. So they're raising the maximum allowed, but then they're not actually collecting it?
Correct. And so that was the understanding is that we wanted to be able to increase it based on the increases in the CPI. But as I said, since 2000, there was no increases in the actual fee. So we would let the.
So, Chair, the SDC would increase by CPI, but we never increased the base fee. So it would just be going up by CPI, whereas with other things, you look at the base fee and you increase that.
Yeah, okay, so that math is losing me. I apologize.
So this year, we increased the base
so-
fee by 2.4%.
So what's the difference between raising the base and raising the fee or the maximum? I'm not sure how that's.
So the way to think about it, if it's $10 and the CPI is $2, it just goes up by $2. And sometimes when it just goes up by the CPI, you don't really recover your costs. So what we did this year was look at the $10 and say that $10 should actually be increased. So we met with the associations and said we're increasing the actual base fee. And then that base fee also gets increased by CPI. So it's almost like a two for one.
So the only thing that I care about is were you collecting more money each year
Yes.
based on the CPI?
Yes, we're collecting more money based on the CPI.
Okay, so I know the question that I'm going to get, I think my colleagues are going to get, is if the rate of, well, based on the rates, and you look at 5 years back, 10 years back, 20 years back, we're looking at 6.5%, 7% average rate increase every year, which is multiples of the CPI. So the system development charge on new projects is tied to CPI, but the rates that are the homeowners, the ratepayers are getting is, you know, as much as 2 times, in some cases 3 times CPI, and that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You know, so it's hard for us to tell our constituents that, you know, this is fair. So how, you know, other than the fact that you need this money to implement capital programs in particular, yeah, how do we justify this?
Because the cost drivers are different from, you know, the SDC program and what's related to development and our operating and capital budget, where our cost drivers are things that we are paying directly and money that we have to pay to another utility, DC Water, for the services that they are providing, which those costs have gone up. So their capital program, we fund, I think, 79 million, 76 million toward that capital program. That will increase for fiscal year 2027. The cost of regional sewage disposal has increased because a portion of our flows, a significant portion of our flows goes to the Blue Plains plant. And then all of the direct costs that we have to pay have increased. And in our presentation, and we can provide that information and follow up, and we will provide this information directly. It's on our website. You can see the cost increases that we are budgeting for. And again, this is not to try to have a profit margin, because we do not generate a profit. We are a cost recovery organization. We charge the cost of service. That is what we are allowed to recover. And so those costs, whatever those costs are, we are budgeting for. And we see the cost increase. Inflation has been a factor. And then more than inflation has been a factor. We have just this week, we put out a press release about reducing the amount of fluoride that we're using for treatment, because that is directly impacted by the current conflict. And we have other costs, fuel and other chemicals that are impacted by those types of events as well.
And I fully understand.
Yeah.
And my constituents are going to say they had the same problem. Even though you think
understand.
CPI is the same for everybody, like you said, you've got costs that are not tied to CPI. They exceed CPI.
Yes.
But I think when you talk CPI, you get into all kinds of, not semantics, but just different definitions, core CPI or core inflation versus other. And for a lot of things, our constituents are really suffering.
Yeah.
And Chair, sorry, we currently have a cost of service study that's being performed. It's the second one. We're trying to get into a 3-year rotation. And in this cost of service, there's a specific carve out for them to analyze the system development charge to see what we actually should be charging versus what we have been charging. So that way we have a basis to share with the community about whatever increase is being recommended based on statistics and the research that's being done by our contractor.
That's very good to hear. Did I understand correctly that the system development charge increase is limited by state law to the CPI?
Yes, it is. There's a maximum allowable amount by county.
And which CPI do you use? That's always a tough
We'll
question.
have to get back to you
Yeah,
on the
that's always a
specific
tricky
one that we
question.
use.
Okay, fair enough. Yes.
Councilmember Denoga, I just wanted to say that we understand we understand and hear directly the customers' concerns. which is why we've made a concerted effort to budget more for customer assistance and also different programs for customer assistance. And under that cost of service study, we have that consultant looking at how we can further enhance our customer assistance program offerings. The thing is that comes from our budget. No one pays for that. It has to be in our budget. We are allowed to include that, but that becomes part of the cost. And I know there's concerns about the amount of adjustments that we're able to make if someone has a leak or some other issue. There are different types of adjustments that we can make by regulation. But if we are adjusting more, then that becomes subsidized by all of our rate-paying customers as well. So there is no fund that we are pulling from, and we do not get all of our costs. Our budget, all of our costs are more than 90% paid by our customers because we do not get federal and local or state aid. And every wastewater utility is in the same position.
Very well understood, but when you're 90% of your budget is coming from ratepayers and your ratepayers are struggling,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a difficult situation. As an exercise, could you provide us with what you would have to reduce further to do a 4% increase?
We can.
At least important for the council to understand what that would mean.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that I'm not the only person hearing this.
Yes, and we did provide some ballpark numbers. A 1% decrease would require a 10.5 million reduction to the operating budget, or 268.3 million in reductions or deferrals to the capital budget. And this is just putting the numbers out there. We would have to make decisions on which way we would go. We do not have the 10.5 million other than doing an immediate hiring freeze, which is going to have some impacts or impacting our existing employees. And because we don't want to carry over costs into fiscal year 2027. And, we, as I shared, the primary domicile of our team is in Prince George's County. And then 6 million, there was a combination here of 6 million in operating reductions and 115 million in capital. So those are the numbers just off the.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adams, did you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, real quickly, my question has to do with, from that budget, how and do they have a contingency be included within all the different areas that they're seeking funding? I mean, how do you handle those emergencies and all? And what kind of percentage do you use, or how do you go about calculating your contingency fund moving forward?
Chair, sorry, Councilmember Adams, what we do is, like, if you look at chemicals, for example, we tend to budget very conservatively because there has been historically a slight price fluctuation. So we look at typically the 3 to 5 year average. And in certain areas, like for chemicals, when we have our winter breaks, the amounts that we budget for the vendors in those periods, we look at what happened historically, and then we anticipate if there was going to be a flux, how much do we need to add to that? So we build in a slight conservative amount in order to make sure that if there's any one-time events, like this winter was pretty serious compared to what we had the last few winters. So we had a little bit of a contingency in there, but we still had to address the overage by cutting from other areas. So we don't really put in a 5%, 10% contingency because we really don't budget that way. As the general manager said, we try to be a cost recovery organization. So we have to make sure that we are getting as close to what we expect the cost to be, and then that way we can justify it to our customers.
And so from that standpoint, how do you adjust for different areas if there is an overage like we had this past winter?
We have to
Is
identify.
there a contingency? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So if you look at it, it's almost like for capital, there may be areas that are behind and areas that have accelerated. So we try to balance the timing of the projects to make sure that we're not really impacting what we wanted to deliver from a service perspective, but we adjust to make sure that we're meeting what we can real time.
If there were an
And so
issue
you
that,
really just,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. If there were an issue that we had to address in an emergency that we did not, and we could not pull it from other areas of the budget by either deferring work or, as I said, not hiring, which we have, we don't have a large vacancy pool, and our vacancies have not been, we don't have positions that have been vacant for years. We cleaned that up. So we would be pulling from other areas and deferring work, not doing hiring. But we do have our days of cash on hand, which we have to maintain if there are some significant emergencies, and we would have to dip into that. Unlike other wastewater utilities that I am familiar with, we do not have a rate stabilization fund or any other funds that we can pull from. And we are looking at how we structure additional reserves and such with our financial advisor and the team that's doing the cost of service study. However, those you have to pay into and for future use. And so that then becomes part of the budget equation. In order to pay into those types of reserves, you've got to budget for that. And we have not done that.
Okay, and one of the reasons I asked that goes to the next question about you said you're going to be looking at the technologies available to remove the PFAS, looking at those. And so my question is, how are you going to be structured? I.e., will you be developing a contingency pool or whatever for that? Or are you simply going to wait until you see what those costs are and then implement immediately? I'm curious on how you're looking forward.
Sure. So from the pilot, for instance, for PFAS, that will give us an idea of what technology we would need to use moving forward. So part of that would be identifying the costs. We have some cost estimates now. Those costs are significant, the estimates that we received, and we can provide that in the follow-up information. We had presented those numbers previously for the different technology options that there are. So we would then, once we have a good idea of what direction we would go with the technology, because we have a certain period of time that we actually have to implement a solution, we would then start building that into the budget. And capital work will be over, there's the CapEx portion, as you know, that will be over multiple years. However, the operating budget would be an annual cost, and we would have to identify that as well. So for the treatment technologies, it would be the operation and maintenance of that technology or that process improvement at the facilities. And then there would be likely chemical or material costs that go along with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the questions.
Mr. Harrison, next question.
Yes, thank you. Two quick questions to the general manager, Miss Powell. As you know, the city of Bowie just experienced some brown water issue. Um, and just since you're on camera, you know, just kind of giving a reassurance of how your team is implementing some strategies on how to deal with that. And number two, um, does some of that brown water come from the potential of some of these older homes in Bowie that have galvanized water lines?
So Councilmember Harrison, I cannot speak to the cause there. I won't attempt to because
Okay.
I have not looked into it, but I have been asked questions, and so I will be, just to make sure that we can respond appropriately. And I will reach out to have a discussion. Um, what we do though is to ensure safe drinking water, and to make sure that there are no aesthetic issues, discolored water. We are flushing the system. The team was explaining to me last week the technology that we invested in to flush the system. There's a certain truck that they use to now flush the system, that then allows us to not just be flushing to the environment. So we're not wasting water. And, we have our treatment processes at the treatment plants where we're using the appropriate treatment techniques and chemicals to make sure we don't have any corrosion, and any issues in the pipes. We don't want to trigger any issues in the system. So I think it's a combination of things, maintaining the distribution system. If you have buildup or tuberculation in the water mains, you're not replacing water mains regularly, you have that buildup,
Yeah.
you may have some pressure issues, and you will also have discolored water issues. So it could be a combination of things that we are trying to prevent.
Okay, and when you're rating about what pipes need to be replaced, um, if you can, because now it's come up with the brown water that's the residents of Bowie are experiencing, if you could give a report about the age of the infrastructure as well in the parameters of Bowie as well, I think that's very important. And then I want to go to the last page where you talked about the average consumption of 48 or 49 gallons per household per day, or that is being utilized. My question is centered around technology. When individuals get a high water bill, is there anything in the system or in place that automatically flags when there's an unusual amount of water consumption that drives the cost up to the consumer? Because if you know the average consumption of the water that is being used per that house, what is the investment that could be made in technology to flag it that can save some operational staffing and timing, where it would automatically flag it and then the customer wouldn't feel like, why am I getting a $2,000 water bill? This is not unusual, right? So I think the investment in technology in that type of system would go a long way at some of your customer service problems.
That's the smart meters. So the folks that are on the pilot,
The smart meters not being too smart.
well, we don't have them all over. And so the folks that have them in the pilot, and we can share, or we will be sharing the specific instances where elevated consumption was identified immediately. We do not have that for all customers today. And that's part of the challenge. They will get a bill or a high usage notification letter after their meter is read, which occurs most times after the issue has happened. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, is your hand still up, Mr. Adams? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address my colleague's question a little, and for WSSC, having been the mayor of Bowie, I wanted to make sure everybody was aware that the problem with the brown water is something that has been a legacy problem in the city of Bowie. Because some of the water is by WSSC, some is provided by the city itself. And as the chair kind of
Thank you,
thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Okay, thank you to General Manager Powell. Appreciate you coming in and answering our questions, and thank your staff. Any final words before we let you head back?
I just want to say thank you for allowing us to have this extended discussion. Yeah,
Well,
we
thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Although Mr. Olson has requested that we quickly do, is that CB 25? That should be very quick, right?
You all have a lot of questions today.
You know, Mr. Harrison may have a lot of questions about dangerous dogs, so,
What? We will entertain your questions.
dangerous dogs.
It's about the owners. This is about the owners.
Dangerous owners.
Dangerous dogs, man.
Yeah.
You can go pretty fast.
Think so. I would think so. It's common sense. It's a common sense bill.
Don't bring your dangerous dog to our county.
Well, basically, don't, yeah, if you can't get a license, well, I'll tell you. Yeah.
You all can come closer. He doesn't bite. The dogs bite, but he doesn't bite.
Trying to bring people together.
Okay, moving forward, we have CB 25, 2026, an act concerning Responsible Pet Ownership Act for the purpose of providing for certain record-keeping requirements, providing for a certain licensing ban, providing for certain licensing restrictions, and generally regarding responsible pet ownership, sponsored by Mr. Olson. I'll turn to Mr. Battle.
Mr. Chair, if I could, in the interest of time, I'm going to turn to Mr. Hurdle just to provide an overview from his policy analysis fiscal impact statement. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Battle. Alex Hurdle, Budget and Policy Analyst for Legislative Branch. The summary of CB 2025, 2026. The bill was introduced March 24th, 2026, and is referred to the TIEE committee. This bill provides for enhanced record-keeping requirements through the animal control officer or administrator to transmit a list of all known dangerous animals in the county for the council annually. It also prohibits an owner or custodian who has or previously had violated sections 3-101A, 33, 3-136, or 3-137. And these are dangerous animal definitions, dangerous animal policy and practice, and dangerous animal restrictions, respectively, from obtaining a license for animals. Now, the fiscal impact for this legislation is on page 3. The adoption of CB 2025-2026 should only have a nominal fiscal impact on the county by the mandated administrative duties cited in the legislation. Additionally, depending on the number of pet and animal owners that are recognized as violators within the Animal Control Code and are prohibited from obtaining a pet license, this could reduce the overall revenue from the license fees. Now, I did have a discussion with Mr. Fisher, which is the director of the Animal Services Division, and they did provide a fiscal note which noted that there would be no fiscal impact to the county. I believe Mr. Fisher has also suggested some amendments to the bill, which I believe he will give in a minute here. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn to the sponsor, and if you would address your amendments.
Well, I actually don't have amendments, but I'm willing to listen to Director Fisher's amendments. Mr. Hurdle outlined the bill very well. This is basically saying that if you are an owner or have owned, an animal that has inflicted bites on a human or another domestic animal, or killed another animal or person, or if you failed to provide proper care and treatment for the animal, or failed to provide humane training for appropriate temperament response, or haven't taken precautions to abate aggressive behavior, that you would be deemed, you already are, I believe, deemed an irresponsible owner. That's section 3-142. And this basically says, this bill says that an irresponsible owner shall be banned from having a license, owning or possessing or caring for animals, period. It used to be for up to a period of 5 years, but I'm just saying, no, you're not allowed to own, get a license for in the future. This is, of course, subject to, the board can grant a waiver. That's what the board is there for. The Animal Control Board, I guess is what it's called. They do entertain appeals, and that remains. So, and it also asks for maintain a record of all known dangerous animals in Prince George's County, and we've added that record should be transmitted to the county council annually.
Okay, I guess we'll turn to you.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for having me today. We're not seeing any huge issues with this. The ACC is ultimately determining if an animal is dangerous or not. The Animal Services Division does not do that on their own, and so that would really be going through their process overall. I do think that this, hearing a little bit more about it, would not allow them the discretion to determine that you are banned or not banned. I think it specifically says if the animal is deemed dangerous, whoever is the custodian or the owner can not have a license, so therefore they cannot have an animal that would be required to be licensed in the county. So right now they have the ability to go up to 5 years in the banning, but that's completely at their discretion, and they do not always enforce that. So if an animal is deemed dangerous, does not mean that they are banned for 5 years. That is something that they have discretion on.
Director Fisher, so on page 4, it is the language, line 16, an irresponsible owner, we're changing may to shall be banned from, and we are adding licensing, owning, possessing, or caring for animals, and we're taking out for up to 5 years. And then the following clause is subject to the right to petition the board for waiver based on good cause shown. And that's already an existing law.
Okay. I guess I would just defer to the Office of Law first, the secondary part there on page 5, the section of starting with line 2, it says owner, custodian, prior owner, custodian whose animal who's dangerous and violated this shall be prohibited. So I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I don't
Yep,
play one on
yep,
TV.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I would just suggest taking out custodian and keeping in owner. Custodian is very broad overall. And if the interpretation is that they could do it up to an infinite amount of time for banning them, then we're fine with that.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Ms. Turn to Ms. Angel.
Thank you. The county executive office would support with the amendment of removing custodian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to all committee members. Before we go any further, I just wanted to have the opportunity to introduce a new member of our team who's going to be helping us from the Office of Law, and that is Christy Watts. So she's joining us and helping us with legislation. And she had the opportunity to review this bill, so I'll have her speak on our comments.
Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. So the Office of Law has reviewed this bill, and we do find it legally sufficient and in proper legislative form. As to, did you want me to speak as to what Mr. Fisher?
Sure.
Sure.
So I briefly talked to Mr. Fisher about the language. I guess seeing as on page 4 that we're removing the may, making it shall. I mean, I think it does comport now to it flows. I think at least when I was reading it, I wasn't looking at it in that lens. So thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Can I, Mr. Chair, can I ask Ms. Canning, so the custodian, I believe that's an existing law, right? We didn't add custodian. So that's the reason it's there, because that's the existing law. I don't know what the I really don't know what the significance is of that necessarily, other than
In the new section, because it's a new section, we added custodian, and so it would be in the new section, wouldn't be in the existing law. It was added because it was used kind of throughout the animal control subtitle. And what you find in the animal control subtitle, and Mr. Fisher would know this, and the Office of Law would know this better than me, but you have the term owner, you have the term custodian, you have it when it's used both owner and custodian, or owner or custodian. Custodian is defined as being an owner, which that's kind of confusing, but I think that since it's used as both are used in the statute, in the subtitle, that's fine, but I think the intent, your intent, was to have it be the owner, which Mr. Fisher is talking about removing, and they're also about removing custodian. So the long and short of it, I think that you can absolutely remove custodian.
okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. You're right. That was my intent. And custodian, I guess, got in there just because it's in the code. So I'm fine with removing that, but yes.
Just if you're a dangerous owner and you get banned from getting a license, but you go get another animal, I'm a little concerned about how many people are going to do that. We probably have a lot of people doing that now. What's the fine if you're caught as an unlicensed pet owner?
We increased that last year, I think.
Unlicensed for all dogs other than pit bulls is 50, and pit bulls are now 300.
If we can define what a pit bull is.
Visual identification only.
Okay. Frankly, if you have a dangerous, if you've been banned, and you have so if you've been banned and you have another animal, there should be some kind of serious fine.
Yes, I agree. like we should define, I'm sorry, a dangerous, if you're owning a dangerous animal without a license, or if you know, if you are an, if you are defined as an irresponsible owner and you have a pet,
So basically,
then you
viola-
should be, that should be a violation, a separate violation that should be very high.
Right.
Yeah.
You've already been found to be irresponsible.
Right.
And then you go out and get another animal. That's really irresponsible.
Right, exactly. So I'm happy to add a high fine to that. I don't, we can, go ahead.
Can we hold this and figure that out? Because I don't think, we said this was going to be quick, and we got the
Yep,
soil
yep,
conservation. did
yep.
this.
We can also do this as a separate piece of legislation.
This is right in front of you.
It is, it is.
Let's hold it. Come back in next meeting, and you'll have the language for a serious fine for somebody who violates, an irresponsible owner who violates the ban on their ownership.
You have a dangerous dog.
No, I don't.
No, I know that, but you have a dangerous
A
dog
dangerous cat.
and you want to hide your dog.
Mhm.
And you say, Sydney, watch my dangerous dog. Under my watch, something happens dangerously. Okay?
Mhm.
I think the person that's holding the dog also, there should be looked into that.
Well, then that would be the custodian, which we just agreed to take out.
Right, but I just trying to get you to see how the system works.
I mean, there's all kinds of permutations that
Yeah.
we could, but
Motion to hold.
second. We will come back with the fine structure for that and,
Yeah, the
happy to-
advertised quickness of this bill has been
well, I
found
thought
to
it
be
was,
fraudulent.
I thought it was gonna be quick.
Okay, we have a motion.
Nothing
and a
with
second to
animals is
hold
quick,
to the
though, I
next meeting.
suppose. Right.
And hopefully Mr. Adams didn't have any questions. Not hearing any. Please don't have. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Denoga,
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison, Councilmember Hunter,
Aye.
Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
Motion to hold carries 5-0.
So we'll get you an even better bill when we're done.
We'll get a better bill. That's right.
Thank you.
So think about fines for irresponsible owners. Perfect.
It should be at least $500.
Yeah, well, at least. Well, I know. I don't know about that, but yes.
Well, you get gangster.
They were licensed in another county, but was here
Well,
with the dog.
the-
Same thing.
You mean, well, if they're
All right, Mr. Chair, we have soil conservation budget here, and what we're going to do is give Mr. Darcy a chance to introduce his team. Turn it over to Mr. Hurdle for the budget. He has a PowerPoint for the budget report, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Darcy. He has a presentation as well.
Great.
Right?
Yep, we've seen this movie before.
Steve, introduce your team.
Same movie, just different chapter. Good morning. Thank you. For the record, my name is Steve Darcy. I'm the Executive Director for the Soil Conservation District. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, committee members. To my left, I have Kim Summers. She's our Administrative Assistant and runs our Outreach and Education programs. Next to her is Miss Gail Myers. She's a Registered Professional Civil Engineer and runs our Rural Ag Conservation Program. Next to her is Janine Nutter. She is our Ag Land Preservation Administrator. And at the end is Kim Rush Lynch. She runs our Urban Ag program and also helps Kim with some of our outreach, especially our Envirothon. Thank you.
Take it away, Mr. Hurdle.
Good morning. Alex Hurdle, Budget and Policy Analyst. I will be providing the presentation for the proposed fiscal year 2027 Soil Conservation District budget. Okay, so the Soil Conservation District organizational chart is up there. The executive director is Mr. Steve Darcy. As you can see through the organizational chart, the Soil Conservation District is partners with the United States Department of Agriculture, Prince George's County, and the state of Maryland. The mission statement and core services are on this slide. And for the next slide, we have the strategic focus for fiscal year 2027 for the district. In the essence of time, we'll have you read those on your own if you wish. There are 5 points up there. And for the next slide, we have the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget for the district. The proposed fiscal year 2027 before recoveries is $2,509,300. This is an increase of $171,800 or 7.3% from fiscal year 2026. The general fund recovered by Stormwater Management Enterprise Fund, there is $30,000 in recoveries from the agricultural land transfer tax, and the total recoveries is $2,509,300. This next slide provides the general fund overview. We have compensation at approximately $1.76 million. This is an increase of 6.8%. Fringe benefits are up 10.1%. Proposed is $604,200, and operating costs are $146,400, which is up 3%. Total compensation, again, is $1.676 million, and this is from analyzation of fiscal year 2026 salary adjustments. In our next slide, we have the revenues for the Soil Conservation District. The county makes up the largest portion of revenues at 73%. They have approximately $2.5 million from the county, followed by federal, approximately $535,400, and the state at $198,800. Again, the three largest contributors to revenue is the county, federal, and the state. In terms of grants, for fiscal year 2027 grant funding, we're looking at a $47,400 grants, which is a decrease from fiscal year 2026. The district is currently utilizing the second National Association of Conservation District technical grant to continue to pay for their urban agricultural planner. And efforts are underway to make this a permanent position. If approved for a third NACD TA grant, the planner would be funded through June of 2027. In terms of staffing, there has been no change. There are 16 full-time positions within the district. This remains unchanged. Attrition rate is 0%. I know Mr. Darcy has an extensive presentation coming up. I just want to provide some highlights here, including the district's continued preservation of agriculture land, their active participation in the school system with EnviroBond, FFA, as well as a curriculum in agricultural science, education, and environmental science academy. And the district continues to provide assistance with the urban farming. There have 10 working farms over at Watkins Regional Park and 2 active farms over at Claggett Landing Road. One highlight I want to provide is the Agricultural Food Security Innovation Center, which is the proposed center or hubs for local farmers and craft persons to sell local goods in the county. The Revenue Authority has contracted out the feasibility study for this project. There have been several team meetings, and this is a 14-month project. No delays have been anticipated. The Soil Conservation District is acting as technical advisors in this project. And I know this is a lot of text, but bear with me. Questions for the committee are the following. Given the challenges of the current and future state budgets and unknown cuts at the federal level, as well as reductions in grant opportunities, will the district be able to continue optimal program delivery to its customers? The second question we have is, what will be the council's role in assisting the district with the expansion of agro-tourism within the county so public safety, development, noise, and traffic can be addressed throughout these communities with reasonable guidelines and regulations? The third question we want to consider is what resources can be utilized to ensure the district will have a full-time permanent urban agricultural planner that is solely dedicated to the district's programs and under the district's supervision. Fourth, what will be the impact of the county's environment due to the reductions in programs under the district that facilitate enhancement of our water quality and soil retention? And finally, the land preservation enrollment in the county has declined in recent years, given the competition for other uses such as solar development, mining, recreation, etc. What programs can be developed or enhanced to increase more acreage annually for preservation? That concludes my presentation, and if there are any questions, I can take them.
We can hold questions, Mr. Hurdle. We'll turn to Mr. Darcy and let you do your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Alex, thank you for that report. So I always love coming and talking about farming and conservation and what your Soil Conservation District is doing for our residents of the county. And I just will note that April is Earth Day month, and on the 22nd is the 56th annual celebration of Earth Day. So we're hoping to plant some trees or something in celebration of that. So some of the members of the council have already seen. This is kind of a repeat of stuff, but I always like to go back and show the basics, especially for newer members of the council. 2026 marks our 85th year of implementing locally led soil and water conservation in Prince George's County. I'm happy to say that as of 2026, I've been with this agency for 40 years. So that's almost half the time of the existence. So I just find that kind of funny. So we are one of 23 soil conservation districts in Maryland. Each county has a soil conservation district, and we're one of over 3,000 districts nationally. We receive funding, staff, equipment, operating funds from multiple sources, and our primary partners are Prince George's County Government, Maryland Department of Agriculture, and USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. The county funds 16 district employees for our operation. We're considered the Upper Marlboro Service Center as you look at districts around the state. So there's 16 district employees, there's 4 USDA Natural Resource Conservation staff, 2 USDA Farm Service Agency staff, 3 Maryland Department of Ag staff, and 2 Southern Maryland Resource Development Corporation staff, for a total complement of 27 staff at the Upper Marlboro Service Center. We've designed that to be a one-stop shop. Our proposed budget sources. Yes. Oh, do I have to click it or something? Go back one. There you go. So the lion's share of our budget comes from our county government, followed, as Mr. Hurdle said, by U.S. Department of Agriculture, then the state. Then a small percentage comes from review fees, and then our Chesapeake Bay Trust Fund grant. So our 5 broad programs, next slide, is our Rural Agriculture Conservation Program, still working with farmers, Agriculture Land Preservation, our Urban Ag Conservation Program, our Urban Development and Conservation, and then our Outreach and Education. So as we did last year, we've come up with highlights for each program. I'm not going to read all of the verbiage. I'm just going to go through and touch on some of the high points. Our Agriculture Conservation Program, reaching out, working with both rural and urban farmers, new and beginning farmers. If they're raising food, fiber, or whatever, farming in the county, we're out there helping them manage their soil and water resources. We put in almost 2,000 acres, farmers planted almost 2,000 acres in winter cover crop, and that's through the state cost share program. We have many other farmers doing it on their own without cost share. Staff assisted 84 farmers putting in 274 best management practices on their farms, covering almost 4,000 acres. Staff also wrote 100 soil conservation water quality plans that cover over 5,200 acres. That's very impressive, probably one of the highest in the state. And working with our federal partners at USDA, their NRCS staff, they processed 78 federal contracts, conservation contracts, for $2.14 million. Out of those 78 contracts, 67 actually were obligated, and so our farmers in the county received $1.7 million in conservation grants from the U.S. federal government. Our Urban Ag Conservation Program has really grown. It's growing faster and gaining momentum every day. Kim Rush Lynch and her staff, we have 1 full-time grant planner on staff through our NACD, National Association of Conservation Districts grant. Hopefully one day we can turn that into a full-time funded position. They did 15 workshops and community events. They developed 31 soil and water conservation plans. They did 85 conservation technical assistant site visits on 81 urban farms. They engaged over 44 collaborators and reached an estimated 2,000, almost 2,100 residents throughout the county. Of those contracts, those federal contracts I just mentioned, 43 of those went to urban ag producers for over $500,000. So you can see urban ag is for real. They also worked with 40 urban farmers to install 19 best managed. I'm still on the same urban ag. Next one. There you go. They also worked with 40 urban farmers to install 19 best management practices. And we had 13 urban small farmers participate in Maryland Department of Ag's small acre coverage crop. Next is ag land preservation. Oh, maybe they're out of, I have them out of order. Back up. There we go. Sorry about that. Our ag land preservation program is still active and healthy. Currently, we have 6 farms in the queue. We're processing, that'll be about 341 acres. Janine just settled a property yesterday. The 6 farms that are in the queue, that's a total of about $2.2 million. To date, we have 83 farms permanently preserved for over 7,500 acres. Next slide. Next slide. Our urban development conservation, a lot of people don't realize, but under state law, soil conservation districts are mandated with the review and approval of all erosion sediment control plans, also small pond approvals for dam safety. We have 6 staff that are dedicated to review and approval of these plans. They review over 1,600 individual submissions in a year, and we hold them to a 10-day business turnaround. 98% of all of our reviews are back to the client within 10 business days. Our average turnaround time right now is under 5 business days for review. We support the county and also the city of Laurel, city of Greenbelt, and the city of Bowie in their Maryland Department of Environment Delegated Inspection Authority every year. And a couple of years ago, we started a more one-on-one conversation and meetings with consultants before they actually make a submission. So last year, we did over 180 hours of one-on-one client consultation in person, and that's in addition to regular review. We work closely with our friends at MBIA, that's Maryland Builders Association, consultants, builders, developers to improve program delivery. You know, there's a lot of discussion about improving the process and streamlining the process for development in the county. We're an integral part of that process, so we're always looking for ways to streamline and improve our program delivery. Our final program is education and outreach. I won't go through all of the things that we do. Our flagship is our Envirothon in 2025. We had 17 teams from 10 schools compete in the 2025. That's 120 students. Since 2013, we've given out $48,500 in higher education scholarships. We're very proud of that. Other events, 54 outreach events coordinated in 2025, reaching thousands of people. And we're proud to announce that Laurel High School won first place honors last year in the 25 Prince George's County Envirothon for the 4th year in a row, went on to compete at the state level. Some of our program initiatives, really pretty much the same as last year. We are at the end of the 2025 WIP 3 goals. So now we move into the next phase. Everybody's calling it the post-25 WIP 3. And so we'll be meeting with our partners at MDA, Maryland Department of Ag, to discuss planning strategies. For right now, all the districts have been told to continue their same goals and outreach as before. Ag land preservation. We continue promotional outreach efforts to eligible landowners. We continue working with land preservation partners to shorten the timeline from application to settlement, and continue to work on creative methods to utilize the ag transfer tax funds for preservation. Because if you don't use your ag transfer tax in 5 years, it goes to the state. We don't want to do that. We want to keep that money here in Prince George's County. Urban Ag, continued collaboration with our partners at USDA, MDA, and University of Maryland Extension, and our friends in county agencies like DOE and DPI, Health Department, planning and zoning, how to smooth out some of the challenges with zoning and permit requirements for urban ag. Our urban development, we're working on implementation of electronic platform for plan submission and reviews, continue our hands-on one-on-one weekly interaction, and trying to lower the number of submissions for approval. Our goal is you should have no more than 3 submissions before you get an approval. If you have more than 3, we want to get together and see what's going on so we can work that out. And of course, education outreach will continue our outreach activities, encouraging schools to get involved with Envirothon and other things like minorities in ag, natural resource, and related sciences called the Manners Program, and of course, Green School Initiative. That's the end of my presentation. It's always a pleasure to come before this body and tell you about all the great things we're doing. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I will note that, again, some of you that have been around a while, you probably have a whole collection of our mugs. But that's cool. I like it. I like it. I like it. And of course, the wonderful native pollinator seed pack is in there. Some cool pins this year. I really love these. Some are green highlighters, some are yellow highlighters. And we like to always bring present. And a cool flashlight too.
I enjoy the wildflowers. Mr. Harrison?
Just a quick statement. First of all, Mr. Darcy, I know you're a friend of the council and a friend of the county, so you've done great work.
Thank you.
I want to thank you and your team for the work that you all do. I had an opportunity to hang out with y'all when we did the farm tour just recently. And I know Mr. Denoga spoke to me just recently about going to the wineries.
Well, check out the ag marketing opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ag marketing
it's great.
opportunities.
It's innovation at its finest. But I wanted to note, and I didn't know if you knew this. You spoke to me about the meat processing plants for our farmers, and so I looked at the map throughout the whole county, and there's 40 locations across the county that actually have the zoning to do this. And so I would suggest that you reach out to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, because I'm sure that some of those farmers that have those lands, those parcels of land, don't even know that they have those zones to do those things. So I think it's a topic of conversation that you need to look into. We've heard the stories, Mr. Noga, a lot of the farmland is in my district, and a lot of the farmers are driving all the way to Pennsylvania. So the cattle just to process has just been extremely burdensome on them financially. And so that was one of the suggestions I got from the farmers.
I've supported that for 25 years, which gets me in trouble at home with vegetarian household.
Well, I appreciate that comment, Mr. Harrison. And so there's two prongs to this. We need a slaughter facility and a meat processing. So it would be great if we could get one-stop shop for these producers. I think we could even raise more beef and maybe even swine, maybe even chickens. I don't know. But the farmers they have a backlog to get their livestock slaughtered, and then it has to be frozen, and then it has to be shipped to another place to get processing. So I'd like to continue this conversation and look at those properties. Cool.
Mr. James Hunt, the acting planning
Yeah.
director, and Mr. Kier. Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't think of his last name, McCoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Adams, any questions?
No questions at this time, and thank you for your.
Ms. Hunter?
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Hi, and thank you for the presentation. With the federal cuts, are you able to still deliver with what you're doing and continuing to do? Seems like that's a huge.
I'm not exactly sure how this happened, but cuts did not impact us. Our federal workforce is the same, has been the same throughout the cuts. I'm not even sure they were furloughed. They were furloughed for a little while. Yeah. This is the first time in my career that we ever had as many Natural Resource Conservation Service people in our office, and it's really came at a great time because we have such a need. to help the urban farmers and new and beginning farmers. And our district conservation is Miss Colleen Kiefer. She's a spitfire. She's a fire plug, man. And she's really getting it done. So you can see in the number of contracts. I think she has our office, our field office has the second largest number of contracts for conservation, federal contracts going out to our producers in the whole state. That really says something. So it's exciting. But thus far, that has not been a problem for us.
Good, glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know on the ag marketer position, James Hunt and Matt Parker were on an email. I was copied on it. A few emails talking about that. And they're looking into that. There was a lapse in October 2024. And the UMD extension says they were working to have the contract reinstated. Anyway, so apparently it kind of got dropped somewhere along the way, and I know they are working on it, but I know that's important and near and dear to all of our hearts here, and so I hope we can get that figured out. I assume you're in the middle of this as well at some
Well,
level.
we've been watching from afar. Kim might have more information on it because Kim was the former
the
ag-
first, right? Second, I'm sorry. That's right.
And it is really an important position to have in the county. You know, one of the things I want to talk more about going forward is the economic development potential of our ag in the county. It's huge now. It's really alive and well. So I've already talked to former council member Ms. Watson, who's now the president of EDC. And she said, yeah, let's get together and talk some ag. Let's talk economic development.
Well, it looked like it was at the extension, but also there was discussion about park and planning. So I just forwarded you the email chain.
Originally, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, it's an extension position funded and housed at Park and Planning.
Microphone.
But it's,
Yes, so it's housed in extension. It's an extension position, but it's funded by the planning department.
Yes.
I remember many years ago, there was a desire to put it with soil conservation, I thought, right?
there was a desire, and I'd have to look back, council member. I think the Attorney General at MDA said it didn't meet our mission or something. I don't, that could change now. I'm very happy to house them if we can legally, and I can check with Attorney General for MDA, Assistant Attorney.
I could have sworn way back in the day, Yates Claggett really wanted it, thought that it dovetailed better with what you were doing.
Yeah, especially now.
I guess it works fine at the extension, right?
I would say there's a lot of benefits at extension, you know, especially because you get to work with the state ag marketing specialist. There's someone within that helps the entire state. What I would say, it's helpful for bringing programming, but in terms of economic development, it seems it would be wonderful to have an additional position that would be within the county somewhere within economic development.
My concern, I think there's a concern raised years ago that putting in EDC, they'd be kind of isolated and not as connected, I guess, with the folks doing ag in the county. So do you think it'll work in EDC?
I will say a lot of our farmers do go to EDC to ask for assistance, you know, if there are any programs that are available to them. I think currently there aren't a whole lot. So if that's something that would become a focus of the EDC, I think people would definitely show up.
So bottom line is we need the position somewhere.
Yes.
Right, right.
That's the goal, Mr. Olson.
Okay, I mean, the only other thing was, well, thank you for all the work that you all do. We do appreciate it all, and you do a great job. The only other thing is, I know Mr. Dernoga was talking about this when you were in here for the wineries, is you do grants, and you have the capacity to do more grants, right? If we
we don't offer grants, but
You
we're
could
always
pass
looking
through.
to, we're always looking to jump on grant opportunities
Okay.
if we have enough staff time. The next grant we're going to be looking at is NIFWIF grant. NIFWIF is National Fish and Wildlife. Yeah. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, just real quick. What is the grant we're looking for?
Sure, it's for small watershed conservation, and I know that they've had an interest currently, in the past and currently in urban agriculture and agriculture in general and how they'll mesh. So that's what one of other
We're
one
always
at.
looking for new opportunities with grants, especially from our federal partners and even our state partners. And they're usually, like you say, pass through. The
Right.
money comes down, it comes to the district, and they're usually targeted at some type of project. That's one of the mechanisms we use to get the urban farm incubator started. That was a grant from NAC.
Right. So, I mean, there may be, I mean, if, well, we can talk offline, but there may be, hopefully there's some opportunity for us to do more around that, the urban ag and,
Great.
and everything. So,
Mr. Olson, if you ever want to come move down to farmland, just come move to District 9.
all right.
Okay?
All right.
You'll love it down
I
there.
know it will.
Or you could just move to BART.
Thank you.
He lives closer to BART. Let's see. Ms. Nutter, how's ag preservation going? What are the prospects moving forward?
It is actually, in retrospect, it's doing really well because there's not a whole lot left really to preserve. We're into the smaller acre parcels. We're doing more of the infill. I do have interest, and for the first time, probably since 2006, 2007, the inception of the program, the market values are pretty high. But I don't have, at this point, I haven't received any funding from MNCPPC, probably the last 3 fiscal years, but we're still solvent.
So how much money do you have on hand that you can use?
About 2.4 million, and I have, there's a 2.4 million I'm spending, and I have about 3.2 million. So if everything goes to settlement I currently have, I'll probably have about $500,000 left. But it's going to take at least a year or 2 to get those two to fruition.
Do you have a map of the preserved parcels?
We do on PG Atlas, but I don't currently have one. I just use PG Atlas.
Is that under environment or with
I look at the easement layer.
easement
So,
layer?
yeah.
I
It's
know
on-
there's one for mouth, but
No, it's all of them. It's mouth, and it is, I even believe MET shows up on there, the Maryland Environmental Trust easements will
Okay.
show up on there. Mouth, Rural Legacy, and Harp easements, all of them.
all right, I'll check that out. I had 2 people recently ask me about zoning for apiaries, which I thought was an odd question. I did look at the zoning ordinance. There's not a,
For bees?
yeah,
I think bees are allowed in the urban ag.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because 2 people asked me about zoning. I thought, well, that's a farming activity in general. And I thought it was in the, at least the old ordinance definition of
As
it.
far as I know, it's still allowed.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll get back to them on that, just checking.
I mean,
And
we can we find that and send it to councilman?
I can send that over, no problem.
incubators, how much land do you need for an incubator? Urban ag type of incubator?
Well, this particular project is, the original UFI is, I think, 15 acres, and there's 10 farmers there, each have a half acre. So, that takes up some other room. They have a compost facility now, they've put up a pavilion. There's conservation land, like waterways, diversions, grass buffers, and things like that. So, I mean, you can do a lot with 20 acres of land. You can do a lot with 10 acres of land.
Now, that was park and planning land, right?
It is park and planning land. And the other, park and planning has really been great in this expansion of urban ag and providing opportunities. At the end of Claggett Landing Road, how many acres is that farm? 50?
14.
Oh, 14, I'm sorry. And
That's the one with the cut flowers?
yes, they started with 3 farmers. I think
Yeah.
one dropped out, and now there's 2. And now they've recently leased out what we call the Hohensie Farm at the end of Swanson Road. That's a bigger property. And they're going to try to do a cooperative farm network there where people can come in and lease plots. So,
Okay, and Kyle deals with,
Kyle Lowe, yes.
he deals with community gardens and that type of thing.
Yes, they have a lot of community gardens. Walker Mill is another site there. They're going to
Yeah.
expand their community gardens
Yeah, I've
there
got a site for one up in District 1, so it's probably 2 to 3 acres.
for community gardens.
Yeah.
That's a lot for community gardens because most of the time their plots are pretty small, I think. So you can get a lot of people. You need, the thing you need to have for community gardens is
Electricity and water.
you got to have electricity, you got to have reliable water, and you got to have deer fencing.
Yeah, I'm personally familiar with that.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be large enough for an incubator, or could you put like one small incubator on a property like that?
Sure. 2 acres, you could, an acre of raw land working by hand, that's a lot of land. We have incubator farmers that are profitable on a half an acre of land.
Yeah, this is, Spicknell's Farm Market.
Oh, sure.
It's sold, and the purchaser is willing to support a community garden or something of that nature on part of the property.
So is the plan for the Spicknell farm to be developed?
Yeah.
But they'll hold out some land for, oh, that would be good. We're happy to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense for a incubator, if it's too, because part of the idea is to have it as a community garden, so you can bring in a lot of local folks to take advantage of it. But if if it makes sense to do an incubator as part of that.
Well, one of the challenges that now we're 5 years into the incubator farm is now that the original farmers have invested time and built the soil up, now what's the next step? Do they leave that and somebody benefits from all their hard work, or do they stay? That's a challenge. But I think
I have the answer.
Okay. I think as we move forward, I think it's a great opportunity to set down, to make an urban farm in the development and have a manager, and you could lease the land to somebody long term.
That's basically where I'm at. I've been, I've been saying this for 20 years, that park and planning has so much farmland that if you succeed at the incubator, why not cut off whatever the right number is, 10, 15, 20 acres of land to a farmer and put an ag easement on it, preservation easement. So it doesn't need to stay in park and planning's hands, or it could stay in park and planning's hands with a 30 or 40 year lease or something like that, rather than what park and planning's been doing, which is leasing large plots to people who don't live in our county.
Yeah, some of the larger farms, I think they're warming up to that idea more. The challenge is in our more rural part of the county where the larger parcels are, is the infrastructure, the cost of getting the infrastructure there. But there's a lot of opportunity, even with surplus county land. There's opportunity to lease it out to urban farmers. The challenge is, and in your situation with the Spicknell farm, the developer would bear the cost of setting up the infrastructure. The challenge is always who's going to pay to set the infrastructure up. New and beginning farmers, they can get a piece of land, but then they need the water, power, and fencing, which is expensive.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Would love to.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? Anything you want to finish with?
No, thank you for your continued support, and we appreciate coming before the body and spreading the good news.
Thank you so much to you and your team.
Thank you.
And
Good to
with
see
that,
everybody.
we
Oh,
go-
one final thing, Mr. Chair. All the council members should have received an invite to our annual
I
dinner.
was going to ask you about this.
So you did, or you didn't?
No, I
Oh, okay. So it's the 24th. Here, pass these out. The only council member listed so far is Ms. Blagay. So I just
Yeah,
throw it out
I
there.
always want to come, but I always have to justify driving an hour each way back home.
It's down,
and-
it's down in Baden. It's down
But I
in
shouldn't say this
Elways.
on camera, but if I bring my better half, and she looks at the offerings of all the meat.
Oh, yeah. You are really going to get yourself in trouble.
That's why I have to come alone.
Okay, I get you. Well, we'd love to have any of the council members attend. Just let the office know, by the end of the week, we got to get a head count in so we have plenty of meat to serve.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you all very much. May I get a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Thank you.